Hi, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to our weekly video podcast where we talk about the disciplines of a growing marriage. My name is Ray Hilton. I'm joined by the love of my life for almost 37 years. This December, Judith Thompson Hilton. And I'm grateful that Judith, you and I can do this together because I really believe that this is a shared desire that God has put in our hearts to engage with couples. And each week we have this, what I call a laser focused mission. And that is to bring you, the listener, viewer, these practical, actionable steps for deepening the roots of your marriage. If you think of your marriage like a strong tree, your marriage is strong because it has deep roots going down. You know, in our work together, and we work essentially with people. Judith as a marriage and family therapist where she sees clients every week, and I work as a pastor in a local church. In our work, we encounter a lot of hurting couples, and I mean a lot. Couples are at various stages of discouragement. Couples are angry. Couples are ready to quit. Couples are feeling alienated, unheard. And we see our mission as one of coming alongside couples, coming alongside you, supporting you, helping you to develop a strong and enduring marriage. And that's what we want to do each and every week. Now, the last time we were together, we started a very, very important discussion about a particular challenge that faces every married couple. And when I say every married couple, I'm not exaggerating. It could, right now, you may not be facing that challenge, but I guarantee you, you're either in it right now, you're going out of it, or you're heading into it. And the challenge that I'm talking about is the challenge of marital drift. Now, why come back to this theme? Because we did talk about it on the last video. Why come back to it? Number one, practically speaking, because we didn't get to finish everything we wanted to say. But seriously, on a much more serious basis, why we're coming back to it is because we're so convinced that the health and the success of your marriage depends on your ability to overcome marital drift. So we thought we would go one more step with this discussion. So Judith, for the sake of those who didn't hear the last video, and you work every day as a marriage and family therapist, you're seeing a lot of couples. Just in a very concise way, how would you define marital drift?
The name, as it says it all. A couple begins to go farther and farther from each other, and after a while, the enchantment goes away. They become disenchanted, and even some couples even end up in divorce. And a couple can choose to say, well, we are aware of it, this is what's happening, and they do something about it. But some couples don't. They just keep moving farther and farther and farther apart. And this is why we feel that this is so important for us to share and to talk to couples and tell them that there is hope.
That's right.
There is hope. You don't have to panic. You don't have to quit. There is hope.
Yeah. And I think that's the message, that even if right now you're saying, well, we're not in divorce, and you're right. But what happens before couples often get to that place where they think they have to end the marriage, they go through this period of emotional deadness and boredom with each other. And fellow friends, that is not the way to live. We don't just want you to exist. We don't just want you to see marriage as some big heavy burden that you have to carry on your back. We want you to see your marriage as a blessing. We want you to be a blessing. We want you to thrive. And the other thing I want you to know is that every couple faces this challenge of marital drift. You know, one of the saddest phrases people often share with us as we talk to couples who have gone through a divorce, they say, well, we just drifted apart. We're not the same people we were anymore, or we don't have anything in common anymore. And I'm telling you, these are some of the classic statements that people share with us who experience marital drift. So listen, if you are experiencing that right now, if you've discovered that your marriage has drifted from where you started, just as Judith said, don't panic. There is hope. And that's what we want to talk to you about this today. We are here to tell you that marital drift is avoidable.
Yes, it is.
It's not inevitable. It is avoidable. So let's talk about those three principles that you can use to anchor your marriage and grow closer together instead of drifting apart. So, Judith, the three that I had in mind that I think you can help us and our friends understand would be these three areas of the spiritual for S, the physical, P, and the emotional, E, S-P-E. But let's just talk about the spiritual. What is it about spirituality that helps to undergird and glue a relationship together?
Well, Ray, a couple that's not having a focus on faith, it's the easiest thing for them to pull apart because they don't have an anchor. We said last time that when people don't have an anchor, it's easy for them to lose a sense of direction.
So hold on, let me ask this question because I have a feeling people are going to ask this the question. So you're saying that Christians or people who go to church don't experience marital drift?
No, yes, they do. They do experience marital drift, definitely.
Okay.
But the ones that are anchored in the Lord, they have a faith. They spend time in prayer.
All right. So
they spend time reading scripture. They worship together. They have a support group. The probability of that marriage having less strength is very unlikely. It's more likely when people don't have a faith. They don't spend time in prayer. They don't read scripture together. And as we said, a family that prays together stays together. That is indeed a fact. When couples are not putting a faith as a foundation for building their marriage, that's the easiest way to drift. So if you include prayer in your time, if you're praying together with your spouse, even if you're upset with your spouse and you find time to pray together, I can tell you it's hard to pray with somebody that you're not in a relationship with. It's hard to read scripture together with somebody who you don't find a commonality. And worship together, going to worship. I know people go to worship together even though they don't get along, but it's going to be a very important ingredient. And then having a support group, people to come alongside you to say, listen, is something going on in the relationship? Maybe a friend or somebody, another spouse that sees that something is not right with this couple. They use a lot of sarcasm with each other. They don't speak respectfully to each other. And there's something that's different. And they can come alongside and say, you know what, guys, are you doing okay? You can have a check-in. And I think couples do better. They don't seem to drift that far apart when they have that support system. So I think that's very important.
So that's
very important.
Yes, that's the spiritual then. And to me it makes sense. I mean, we're sitting here in our home, and I know at one point this house did not exist. There was an architect and the builders and the contractors and all these different people came together and they built this home. They built it based on a blueprint. And I guess what we're saying to you about the spiritual part of it is that God is the designer and the creator of your marriage. And if you need insight about how to develop that spiritual relationship together, it only makes sense that you go back to the Lord. Yes. So talk to us about the physical. That's the second one, the P in anchoring a marriage, the P, the physical.
Well, I'm understanding more and more as I read articles and that are saying that a lot of couples are no longer having sex. There's like this physical component that's missing from a number of marriages. And that the record of this is kind of scary when you see what's happening, because either they're not having sex with their spouse or they're having sex with somebody else. And this is even in the church, which is sad. But when the physical aspect of a relationship is died or is dying, that's a big opening for the enemy to get an opportunity. And physical don't only mean sexual.
Right.
You can, there's some women who tell me sometimes that, well, my husband never gives me a hug. And I always say, he doesn't give you a hug. Well, ask him for a hug. Some men say, my wife doesn't want to do much of anything with me. She's always out with her girlfriends or some other friends or involved in the church and busy doing whatever, but never ever we just don't have time to get close physically. And so those are some of the things that happen where the physical aspect of the marriage is dying, and nobody tries to make an effort to say this has to stop. And what you have to do, if you're feeling that way even right now, you say, honey, this is not happening. We are not going to allow the physical component of our marriage, which is important because it's created by God, as you rightly said, that it's part of that relationship that God says is important. So it even says, do not stay away from each other. sexually, but for a season. And so for fasting and prayer, and also if there's sickness, then that's another reason. But you should not stay away from each other sexually, because it gives the devil an opportunity. So that's why physical intimacy is very crucial in a relationship, for it to thrive.
So we have the spiritual needs. We have the physical. Talk to us quickly about the emotional. What is so important about the emotional aspect of a marriage that allows that marriage, when it's being expressed in a healthy way, to keep that marriage grounded, strong, and glued?
Well, it's almost like the emotional and physical kind of tying together, because if you're emotionally not given over to spending that time with your spouse, to talk to your spouse and engage with your spouse, and what happens a lot of times is, friends, is that instead of sharing your deepest emotion with somebody, with your husband or wife, you go out and share it with a co-worker, sometimes a person of the opposite sex, and that can develop into not only just adultery or it can involve what we call emotional
affairs. Yeah,
yes,
that's true.
And so that's the reason why you need to guard your emotion and give over that emotion. That emotion should be given over to that spouse, and not see it as something that, well, I need this affection, but I don't ask for it. I need to be cuddled. I need to be encouraged. I need affirmation. And instead of doing it to your spouse, you're doing it to somebody else. And so I think that emotional is very, very crucial.
Yeah, so we all have this bucket inside of us, right?
Yes,
that needs to be filled
yes.
emotionally.
Yes.
And if it's not being filled by the person in your relationship, then somehow you're going to go somewhere else to find it.
Yes.
So we've got the spiritual, the physical, and the emotional. And you put those three together, they begin to strengthen and deepen the relationship.
Yes,
so as we come toward the end of our time here, Judith, think about a practical thing that someone can do, a practical thing that you can do to serve. Because I think at the end of it all, in order to engage spiritually and physically and emotionally with each other, each person in the relationship needs to take on the posture of a servant.
Yes.
And I was thinking to myself, what if every couple, and this is really what I want you to do, you could do this evening, you could do this tonight, you could do this today, is ask the other person in your relationship, how can I make your day better?
Yes.
Or another way to say it is, what is one thing I can do for you to make your day better?
Yes.
And just take the time to ask that question, and when the person gives you the answer, and hopefully you will engage with your spouse and give them an answer. One of the articles Judith and I read not too long ago was about a man and his wife who were going through an atrocious time in their marriage. They were on the verge of giving up.
Yes.
And in the article, the man one day just got on his face and he cried out to God and he said, God, help me, show me. I don't want my marriage to end this way. And somehow he said, God dropped this question in his heart. How can I make your day better? The next day he woke up and he turned to his wife and he said, honey, how can I make your day better? What is one thing I can do for you to make your day better? And you know what his wife said? She said, clean the kitchen. And he went ahead and he did it. And the next day, and he came to his wife and he said, honey, how can I make your day better? She said, clean the garage. And he said he was busy, he had a lot to do. He went out and he cleaned the garage. And he came back a third day and a fourth day and a fifth day. And by the end of that week of asking his wife, what is the one thing I can do to make your day better? He said in his story that his wife broke down crying. And she said, what is wrong with you? What are you doing? And he explained to her that I love you. I want our marriage to be better. I want to serve you. And you know what started happening to this couple? His wife started asking him, what is one thing I can do to make your day better? Now, let me be honest with you. I don't necessarily ask Judith that question every day. No, seriously, but every day I'm trying to do something that is not just about me, but is also about my wife, because she has needs. She has spiritual needs, she has physical needs, she has emotional needs. And in order for us to have a strong and growing marriage, I need to be serving Judith and discovering what her needs are. And as Judith, you correctly say, you also have to tell me,
Yes.
because I can't read your mind.
Yes, and a lot of women think that they can read their husband's mind.
Right.
Yes, and couples do that.
And the fact that we've been married so long, I mean, I still am discovering more and more things about you, but in part it's because you're telling me.
Yes.
You're telling me. And what would have been your needs when we got married at 23 is not the same. And what are we now, 25? It's not the same needs that we have at 25 years old. So we're growing, we're changing. And that is an important question to keep asking. How can I make your day better? So let's stop here, because if this information is what you're looking for, then don't forget to give us a thumbs up. You can share your comments with us, and better yet, you can click and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, and you will continue to receive this kind of practical, actionable insight in your inbox. If you want to reach out to us, you can always send us a message, a private message on Messenger to Judith or to me, and we will set up some time to get together and talk about what's going on in your marriage and in your life. But for now, God bless you as you continue to exercise those disciplines that will grow your marriage. You take care now.